player introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, the players are ready. Let the games begin. First out of the tunnel from Italy, Flavio Cipolla. And from France, the tournament's number 3 seed, Jo-Wilfried Tsonga.
Good afternoon, guys. Happy New Year. So, same condition. Just today we're having 9 line umpires on court, not 7. Do you have any other question about anything? With Hawkeye, 3 incorrect challenge per set, 1 additional for tie breaks. Okay? Any questions? Flavio, head of 10. Joe? Serve? Mistake. Too much.
Players warming up then now out on court here at the Khalifa International Tennis and Squash Complex here in Doha to confirm it's Guy McCree here with Jason Goodall to take you through the opening second round match of 4, the big 4, all in action here in Doha once again on Wednesday. Flavio Cipolla, the world number 75 from Italy, taking on the 3rd seed, last year's losing semi-finalist Jo-Wilfried Tsonga of France. Tsonga, of course, well, it was quite a battle for him, as we can see there. Really pushed by the Tunisian wildcard, Malek Jaziri, who really impressed himself. Sure, got a lot of big new fans. Just faded a bit in the end, though, and Tsonga managed to come through. Real contrast, Cipolla, how he came through. That's the first double bagel on the ATP World Tour of the year. I believe the first since late 2009 that he handed to the Qatari Jabbar Al-Mutawa. So very easy progress for Cipolla. You do sense, though, it's going to be a bit tougher for him here this afternoon against Tsonga.
I think you're right, because I think Tsonga got a bit of a wake-up call yesterday. He did play incredibly well, his opponent, for the first 2 sets anyway, before he faded a little bit physically. But Tsonga said afterwards he was delighted that he was out there on court for a long, long time, and he felt that he was able to sort of play himself into some semblance of form. But I thought the most important factor was that he got himself together emotionally in that deciding set. He's going to need to be mentally tough again today, because in Cipolla, he's up against somebody who had a really good season in 2011, played much of his tennis at the challenger level, had a lot of success there, won a lot of matches, and of course then he was trying to make his way up onto the ATP World Tour, and he had to play qualifying most of the time, but he had more success than anybody else throughout the year in qualifying for the main draw. So that tells me a lot, Guy, because that's the hardest way that you've got to do it. But you really do feel like you've earned your place in the draw when you do qualify. And he qualified at a couple of the Grand Slams as well. So I think coming out here against Tsonga this afternoon, having done all of that last season, he'll feel like he deserves a shot at one of the best players in the world. He's had a couple of decent results against top 20 players before.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting you note that last year, because, you know, the qualifying success that he enjoys, ending the year inside the world's top 100 for the first time. He broke it briefly a couple of years ago, getting in at 99, but now firmly ensconced at 75. Really just out of nowhere. I mean, he's been around for a while, turning pro back in 2003. What do you put that down to? Because you wouldn't have thought at the start of the year that Cipolla would have done that.
No. It's a lot of factors. Everything has to come together. The stars have to align, don't they? You mature a little bit, just like we saw yesterday with Jaziri. you can't often pinpoint why a player has success when he does. But what you've got to do is make the most of that, obviously. So the beginning of this season, absolutely crucial. Similar scenario with Tsonga, but just at the very top of the game. So he finished last season on a high, a lot of success indoors. We know he likes to play without having to battle the elements, and he had a lot of success in the last 6 months of the year. But he's got to build on that as well. Career high number 6 in the world, as we've already discussed. But can he break into the top 5? Can he dislodge somebody out of the big 4? That's the question. And in order to do that, he's going to have to win matches not playing well, which is what he did yesterday, so that's a big tick. But also he's got to then be able to learn from that performance and make sure that the next day when he plays, he performs a little better. And on the days when he's not playing his best tennis, he still finds a way to win. Because we know when he is at his very best, he can beat the best players in the world.
Yeah, it's something we did discuss a lot, but it's the burning issue, I suppose, with Tsonga, of whether he can crack that top 5 and really challenge the big 4. And sure, we'll discuss it again. People joining our coverage through the week or whatever. It's a big issue with Tsonga, so we are going to revisit it. And it's how every match, because it's ultimately consistency is a big part of that in terms of making that big jump, not just how you perform against the really top guys. It's doing it week in, week out. And I thought, hey, pulled through against Jaziri. That was impressive.
Yeah, and it's interesting as well, listening to Tsonga post-match yesterday, when he was asked what he got up to in the off-season. Because, of course, you always think of the players working hard in the off-season, trying to improve their game in order to start the following season as strongly as they possibly can. But in actual fact, he said, hey, I was exhausted, played so much tennis towards the tail end of last year that I just took a couple of weeks off. I just had to try and get my body back in pretty decent shape. I had to recover emotionally to get motivated for the beginning of this season. So that's one of the reasons why I like the fact he was out on court for quite a long time yesterday, because he feels, actually, he's a bit under-tennised. He didn't get a really good couple of weeks training in, so he needs as many matches as he can possibly get this week in the run into the Australian Open.
Yeah, I also think it gives him a lot of confidence as well, pulling through in those conditions, because that's the other thing he was talking about. He really didn't like it out there in blustery conditions. We know that in Melbourne, if you look at the Australian Open, you can have very different conditions there as well. So I think it's good for him to be, continuing to get wins in those conditions. Because as you say, indoors, he loves it. There's nothing to mess with his magic, so to speak. But out here, it can really, really be different. Today, noticeable. I'm sure we'll get the thoughts of Robbie on that court side. But looking at it, it's still a bit blustery here today, but not quite as much maybe as when he played against Jaziri.
Well, I don't know. When you look at his clothing there, I mean, it is swirling a lot today, and it's not as cold, though. That's the key. And he played first yesterday, so he didn't quite suffer as much as some of the other players did who played a little later. Certainly his good buddy, Gael Monfils, who played last, must have been freezing out there because it was very, very cold. Of course, that affects the ball through the air and the type of tennis that you can play effectively. So it's quite a nice bonus for Tsonga to be playing first, because with the sun still out, he can get a bit more on the serve. He can get a bit more out of that big forehand. But yesterday he did struggle, particularly with the backhand pass. But I think also coming into today's match, he'll have more of an idea of what to expect from Cipolla. Whereas yesterday, I'm not sure he would have had a clue as to how well his opponent actually was going to play, because he came out of the blocks flying. So I think that surprised him as well, and that frustrated him. He thought, I should have beaten this guy easy. Didn't give him enough respect initially until the third set, when he really got into focus and then played a lot better. So I think that will help his cause today.
Opening match of the second round here on the centre court. 4 to come. The big 4 all in action again. First up here, the third seed, Jo-Wilfried Tsonga. Real battle for him in his opening rounder. I'm sure he'll be looking for slightly easier progress here against the world number 75, Flavio Cipolla of Italy, who enjoyed the most comfortable of opening round victories, didn't he? Didn't drop a game in his opening round match.
First set. Jo-Wilfried Tsonga to serve.
So the first of 4 matches we're bringing you here.
Ready.
The second round encounters here at the Khalifa International Tennis and Squash Complex. And here it is, Jo-Wilfried Tsonga, the third seed, will serve first here. And it's not a bad start.
15.
Yeah, I think it's one of the areas of his game that he's looking to improve this year, the ability to come in on the slightly slower surfaces. He's got to have confidence in his technique at the net, but it's the basic shots as well that he needs to make on a regular basis. We know he loves those little short angle volleys. He's got such a fantastic feel on both the forehand and the backhand volley. It's such a joy to watch. And, you know, on this court, the ball does stay remarkably low when you come underneath it, either with a slice from the baseline or those little short angle volleys.
Just having a second look at the line there. Let it go. Very close, as you can see there. I understand why he had a little look at it. And why he didn't challenge. It's a shame. It's a nice little move in from the Italian. But what are we going to get from Cipolla in terms of performance? Where can he hurt Tsonga, Jason?
Well, I think that's a good play coming into the backhand, because we saw yesterday the Tunisian wildcard have a lot of success when coming into Tsonga's backhand. He couldn't decide whether to hit it with two hands or one, could he? And he made a lot of errors, got very frustrated with that particular shot. So although Cipolla will play primarily from the baseline most of the time, today he might think, hang on a minute, I'm going to come in a little more readily. That's what I was talking about in terms of Tsonga's volleying. We know he's got great feel. He can create lovely angles with the drop volleys, but it's the basic shots like that, especially when it's a bit breezy, that sometimes cause him problems. Yeah, that's an area of his game that he can improve, I think. You know, not making errors on those shots, especially on game point. Should wrap this game up by now.
Oh, that is wonderfully done. Terrific shot from Cipolla.
Oh, it really was. But again, I'm going to question the approach shot. He hit it well, Tsonga, but I'd like to have seen him come into the net inside out again with the forehand. Everybody now on the tour hits that forehand on the run so well. But it was an excellent shot, because most go cross court in that position. See, that's the approach guy that I was talking about.
Listening to you. He's obviously got you dialed in.
I'm on 10% of the prize money today, at least. But if you can just come in there on the backhand, you know, it's so tough for Cipolla to actually come over that and be aggressive. Consultancy is definitely the way forward, isn't it, Guy?
You're going to be a rich man if Tsonga keeps his progress going.
Fingers crossed. It is a bit breezy. Sometimes you do get a bit of debris flying across the court. There it is again. You know, you get that ball firmly struck to Cipolla's backhand, and I think it's so difficult for him to hit a meaningful shot from that position. Whereas on the forehand, you know, that subtle flick of the wrist can enable him to create wonderful angle, get a lot more spin on the forehand than he can on the backhand from that position.
Tsonga.
Saves a break point in his opening game, the Frenchman. Tested it a little bit, but comes through it.
First game.
Hold serve.
Yeah, it's a nice start, and delighted to say we've got Robbie Koenig courtside. Robbie, nice to have you with us today. Very breezy when I was walking into the stadium today, and it appears, when looking at Tsonga in that opening game and the problems that he was having with the wind, that it's a similar scenario down there courtside. Is that right?
No, definitely. It's certainly
Flavio
as
Cipolla.
strong as it was yesterday, maybe even a little bit more. But I'm just thinking the fact that he's got one match under his belt in the wind already is certainly going to help him. But if Cipolla could want conditions to take on Tsonga in, it would be these ones.
Just a quick question on this matchup, Robbie. Do you think Cipolla has the necessary firepower to be able to hurt Tsonga?
No, I don't. That's why I think the wind is a good thing for him. I think it'll help him certainly when he's hitting the ball with the wind to get a little bit more penetration, and certainly against the wind. Yes, and of course there you see playing with the wind, he's able to penetrate somewhat, but against the wind, what happens is the ball moves in the air a lot more when you're hitting the ball into it, especially his slice. I think it's going to be really effective into the wind. So, no, I don't think he's going to win this match, but I do think conditions are going to help him to get a good result.
Oh, that is gorgeous.
30-15.
Again, it's his favourite shot. I mean, it's similar to Nikolai Davydenko in that regard. They love going with the short angle volleys. Leighton Hewitt was another, wasn't he, who loved to hit that shot whenever possible. And on this court, the ball does stay low when hitting that shot, or when you hit a heavily sliced shot from the back of the court. He's come to the net a lot so far, hasn't he? He's won 5 of 7 so far, and we've only played 13 points.
So what I'm also looking for as well from Tsonga, I mean, he pulls through the match yesterday, holds it together for me, but there was evidence there that he was letting the fact that it was windy during the match get to him, and I don't like that, especially if you're looking from the point of view of challenging, breaking into the top 5. So I'm really looking body language-wise for him, really just to front up to it and not to give away emotions like that too easily.
Nicely done. I think you're right, and I think, as Robbie suggested, you know, having played in very similar conditions at the same time of the day yesterday, he will know that it's going to be very, very difficult out there today. So I think he'll probably come into the match with a slightly better attitude, lowered the expectations somewhat in terms of how fantastic he might be able to play, and we'll be thinking perhaps more today about just getting the right result. It's a good opening game, that, from Cipolla. Of course, when it is really windy, it's tough to serve big. It's not bad, considering. But won't be able to serve as many aces as you would indoors. So they'll have to work a little harder behind the serve, mix it up a little bit. Sometimes serve and volley, sometimes stay back, dominate from the back.
14, love.
Jason, that's something that I think that's going to hold Tsonga in good stead, is the fact that his service motion is so simple. In the wind, it generally holds up better than guys who have complicated motions or a hard ball toss.
Just missed that one. Tsonga holding to love, not troubled in that game. He had to save a break point.
Tsonga leads 2-1.
Much easier, that one. 2-1 he leads.
Robbie, just wanted to get your thoughts on Tsonga and what lays ahead for him throughout the course of the season, coming off the back of course, a fantastic 6 months in the second half of 2011. Do you think we're going to see progress from the Frenchman, or is it going to be tough for him to repeat that success?
No, I think we are going to see a progress. I think a lot of it's going to come from the mental fortitude that he's gained playing so well at Italian this season. And I think he's developed a lot of belief that he can take on these big boys. I think he's going to certainly challenge the top 4 guys, no question about that, especially when conditions are right. Indoors, I think they're going to struggle against him as well. Nice fast conditions if it's hot and the ball's zipping through the air. Look for him to do well in Australia if he can survive the first couple of rounds. I think when he goes deep in tournaments, he's going to be dangerous this year, even more so than last.
So, no breaks of serve as of yet here. Decent opening, this. 12 minutes played. Cipolla to serve at 1-2.
Robert and Manny.
Love 15.
It's a nice tactic. We saw it used yesterday throughout the course of the matches, because when it is breezy, it is tough to pass. Yeah, no question about it.
Oh, that's well done.
15-0.
Nice assured start here from the Italian. Oh, he's found it.
15-30.
It's good tennis. You know, and I think that's what you've got to try and do. If you're not a natural volleyer, you've got to try and dictate play from the back, force your opponents into an uncomfortable position where they're defending, and then maybe ghost in. So your volley's a little easier, it's slightly higher. Much easier to put that ball away. So 4 from 5, it's a nice ratio. So it's picking the right moment to surge forwards.
Giving Tsonga there a bit of his own medicine. Inside-out blow.
Yeah, and that's what I like. That's aggressive tennis, effective tennis, but it's a high percentage pattern of play as far as he's concerned. He's done that his whole life. Served and then run around the backhand and hit the forehand inside out. So he's going to be very comfortable using those shots. Doesn't matter who he's up against. Playing to his own strengths.
Double.
He pulls off a beautiful volley because the approach wasn't really good enough. Tsonga's technique at the net, you feel, gets him out of jail there.
Well, it's an incredible feel. There's no question about that. I love the tactic of taking the ball out of the air with the drive volley, but here, when he's under extreme pressure, he still knows how to take pace off the ball. It might have looked a little fortunate, but it wasn't. He knew exactly what he wanted to do, but it wasn't quite good enough.
Advantage, Cipolla.
Real predominance of points at the net so far, Jason. Really, both men. We know Tsonga is going to look to do that, but as you've pointed out already, Cipolla is also looking to go that way.
60% of the points have been played in the forecourt so far. I mean, it's like old school tennis. Circa 1989.
Just misses out there. I'm sure Mr. Koenig courtside would have a view on that as well. I know he's a big fan of that old school tennis
Two games over.
that we're seeing often here.
Yeah, I am a big fan of it, and I love to see guys coming forward, and Cipolla does that really well. If we do get a slow-mo shot of him, he gets down really well, gets his eyes down to the level of the ball when he's volleying, and that's why he's so effective. I remember him beating Andy Roddick in Madrid on the clay a little earlier in 2011, and there he was outstanding, was prepared to come forward at every given opportunity, and I was impressed with his volleys back then. And I think, Jason, you'll agree it's been more of the same today.
Yeah, it's always important, isn't it, to get down to the level of the ball. One of the reasons why Robbie was so good at volleying, obviously, because he's so small, didn't really have to worry about bending the knees. Everything was coming head height or above. So
First dig of the day.
very easy for Robbie.
First of many, we expect.
Tsonga.
The love game for Tsonga, couple in a row. Just edges ahead again.
Tsonga leads
First set this, pretty good quality as well. Tsonga 3-2.
I think what I've liked so far, Guy, as far as Cipolla is concerned, is the fact that we know he prefers playing on clay, and when doing so, he'll play primarily from the baseline. But of course, it's so important because there are so many tournaments played on hard that you make minor adjustments. So you don't completely change your game plan. You don't suddenly start serving and volleying all the time. But what you've got to do is take full use of the shorter balls, and rather than hitting an aggressive ground stroke and then going back to the baseline, which is what he would do most of the time on clay, you then take that short ball and perhaps come in behind it. Choose the right moment in order to do so. So that's what I've liked about his performance so far.
No, it's a massive moment as well. I mean, because I know we've discussed this already. I mean, that's going to be a big area. You see a big area in the game in terms of how it's developing, is moving on to that shorter ball and picking it off, you know, doing something with it. And as you say, pointing out that he does that, but it's a big thing as the game currently stands at the moment. Just the one break point created so far by Flavio Cipolla in Jo-Wilfried Tsonga's opening service game. Both men have made very assured starts to this one. The Italian here at 2-3.
15.
to be denied there, Tsonga.
Nice variation. You know, again, I think Cipolla was just leaning to his left there a little bit. He was expecting Tsonga to go inside out with the forehand. Was very late checking, and therefore he had no chance to move back to his right. So it's always good to try and vary the play. Do so sparingly, but if you can do it at the right time, so effective.
He's in again.
I'll tell you what I really liked about that volley was the fact that he got so tight onto the net. Players make the mistake of moving forwards and then stopping before playing the volley. But if you can move through it, not only do you get into a better position because you're moving a little quicker before you make contact with the ball, but a little bit of linear momentum also helps you generate a little more pace with the shot.
He's just missed out, but I like the approach again from Cipolla. Moving through another service game here.
There's a sneak again. Lovely play from Cipolla.
Got to be impressed with the start he's made here. Much higher ranked opponent. One of the big names, and Cipolla not daunted at all. 3 each.
And so often when you're a small player like Cipolla, you've got to be a lot more cerebral as a player. You don't have the weapon, so you've got to think your way around the court as best as possible. And I think that's what we've seen so far in the opening 6 games. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Are you suggesting you're a cerebral player?
I was subtly. Am I getting away with it?
Not at all.
Yeah, Robbie making a point, and Cipolla 5'8", by no means the tallest player on the ATP World Tour right now. Heavy hit there. Doesn't get hold of that one, Tsonga.
That's a tough shot to pull off. I mean, although he's great at hitting those little drop volleys, you've got to make sure you attempt it at the right time. There, you know, bunt that ball back, hold your position and ask your opponent to pass you. Wait for a better opportunity to win the point. You know, it's no good looking around like that and saying, oh, it's windy today. You know that. Conditions haven't changed since the start of the match. You played in similar conditions yesterday. Don't use that as an excuse. It is breezy. You've got to take your foot off the gas a little bit. Keep things simple.
Second serve.
Oh, dearie, dearie me.
14.
Of course, one of the things you have to do when it's windy is keep the feet moving all the time, ready to make that last second adjustment. And Tsonga there got set up way too early, too far away from the ball, ended up reaching for it badly, and as a result, he's in real trouble here.
Yep, Cipolla with break points. He had one in the opening game, couldn't take it. Does so this time, though. Another miss hit from the Frenchman. Really struggling in that game, Tsonga, and he surrenders his serve. The first break of this one, and it goes the way of the world number 75, Cipolla, with the break at 4-3.
Robbie, just some quick feedback in regard to the type of tennis we're seeing from Cipolla at the moment. I sense from the commentary box some nice variation in terms of the trajectories that we're seeing from him. That slice in particular seems to be staying really low and troubling Tsonga.
Absolutely, you took the words out of my mouth, Chase. The backhand slice is very effective, especially with the wind. The thing's got all kind of bite on. It's not getting up further than about ankle height, but then when he's hitting the forehand, he's putting a lot more elevation, more spin on it, so the variety that he's bringing to the table is fantastic, and it is frustrating Tsonga. It's not allowing him to get into any sort of rhythm whatsoever. Throw in the fact that Cipolla is prepared to come forward, finish the point off the net. He's creating the perfect storm at the moment, so good stuff from the Italian. I guess the big question is, can he maintain it for the next hour and a half or two?
Plenty to think about. Jo-Wilfried Tsonga just surrendered his serve for the first time. Struggling in these conditions, letting it affect him. Cipolla with the break, 4-3. He's found the line with that one.
Again, great footwork. Got really close to the net when making contact with the ball, and that meant that Tsonga was a little more out of position, so a better chance to put the ball away. The technique on that forehand volley, absolutely perfect.
.11.
Yeah, she's noticeable with that volley, how far out in front the racket was.
The further out in front of the body that you make contact with the ball when you're volleying, the more options you've got. You can go cross-court by making sure that the racket head is slightly in front of the wrist upon contact, or you can lay the racket head back and hit that one down the line or even inside out, as Cipolla did there.
Teetering on the edge there, Tsonga. Since the racket might thud into the plexi cushion.
Yeah, he hasn't been able to make the necessary adjustments, given that we're playing in breezy conditions today. He's trying to play as he would have done indoors and getting frustrated by the conditions. And of course, you've got to embrace them. You've got to think about how you can be effective in the wind. He hasn't done that as yet. Whereas Cipolla, of course, has.
The Italian is just playing the conditions much better than Tsonga right now. Consolidates that break.
Cipolla leads 5
He's
games.
seemingly closing in on this opening set.
Better length from Tsonga on that occasion.
Sorry, love.
overall there.
Yeah, it did look wide, no challenge needed.
Ahmed Abdel Azim in the chat.
Maybe Tsonga's challenge.
Yeah, indeed he is.
Wide to me. How did you see it, bud?
I'm with the chair umpire on this. I think it is wide. With yourself as well. It's not even close, really, in the context of things.
Tsonga.
It's been a real mixed bag on serve from Tsonga in this set. 3 love service games. The other 2, though, he's had break points, and crucially one of them, Cipolla broke, and that's why the Italian is still in the box seat here to serve for the opener shortly at 5-4.
That you made earlier, Guy, about the fact that in Australia it gets very, very windy as well, doesn't it? We know that for a fact. So even though it's a little cooler here, especially when you play late on in the evening, you know, the wind is something that you have to embrace out in Melbourne as well. So you know, the longer you fight it, the tougher it is for you to make the adjustment once you get down to Melbourne. So you know, you've really got to get your headspace right. And you've really got to understand that this is what it's going to be like for the next 3 to 4 weeks if you go deep in the tournament. So, you know, the tougher you can be mentally earlier on in the season, better chance you've got of doing well in the Australian Open.
Time.
Plenty of support for the Frenchman, Jo-Wilfried Tsonga. He's in a bit of difficulty here. He needs to break back right now. He's going to maintain his hopes of taking this opening set. Really hard to fault his opponent's performance thus far, but this is the crunch moment, so to speak. Played terrific stuff for 32 minutes. Can he close this one out? 5-4 Cipolla.
Love 15.
First point of the game, hugely important. A little bit of additional pressure now on Cipolla. Interesting to see how he handles the situation. Hasn't had that many wins in his career, only 2 against players ranked inside the top 20 in the world.
Frustration once again, very obvious from Tsonga. No, you say with Cipolla, just a couple of top 20 wins. Robbie's referenced that win over Andy Roddick in Madrid. Also Alexander Dolgopolov as well. A bit of a revenge win, that one from in Beijing, because Dolgopolov had beaten him, I believe, at the US Open. So, but yeah, not too many big time wins.
Left. First serve.
First double fault of the match, that one, for either player.
It's a poor shot. I don't like that shot selection at all. Never really gave himself enough room to be able to swing freely at the ball. You know,
Just
why not just keep
jammed, didn't he?
Why not just keep the rally going and wait for a better opportunity to be aggressive? All the pressure there is on Cipolla.
That's why I talk about the shot selection from Tsonga. It's still a lingering issue, a concern there. Another example of it. Gets a gift there, though, from the Italian. And here we have a break-back point chance for Tsonga.
He's definitely got a little tight, and you know, it's understandable. Everyone gets a little nervous. Doesn't matter what standard of tennis you play, but it's handling those nerves, understanding what patterns of play you have to use when you're a little tight for them still to be effective.
First breakpoint opportunity that Tsonga has had in this opening set. Breaks back. Cipolla's poorest game of the match so far by a distance. Tsonga back on serve.
That's the difference, I think, with players ranked a little lower. It's one thing to come out onto the match court, have a good game plan in mind, and to be able to execute it. But of course, as Robbie Koenig was suggesting earlier, you know, the big question mark is always what happens when it really matters at the tail end of the set, and there he was found wanting.
Seizes on the opportunity, Tsonga. The door a little ajar. Cipolla not doing quite enough there.
It's important for there to be a response in this game from Cipolla. Just able to generate enough pace on that attempted passing shot there to draw the error, even though he was off balance.
Just sensing the body language of Cipolla at the moment. I'm keeping a close eye on him. As just drop the shoulders a bit. That's those 3 points. The last one, the double fault and the missed forehand in the last game. Maybe just got his spirits down.
It's a great point Robbie makes, because you know we can always analyse, you know, provide excellent analysis of shots and everything. The body language for me, everyone watching these matches, you know, it's so integral, so important.
Yeah, we noticed it yesterday when Philip Kohlschreiber was playing Rafael Nadal. More glances at the box.
Oh, trying his hardest. It's all in vain, though, for Cipolla.
Good court coverage from Tsonga, following the line of the ball intelligently. That's always the key when you do move forwards. You've got to cut down the angles, just like a good goalkeeper would.
Really was too tentative from Tsonga.
Just a sloppy shot. Yeah. You know, you're 40 love up. You've worked hard to wrestle the momentum from your opponent in the last 5 minutes or so. Why gift him a point like that? Sure, he's still odds on to hold, but if you can do so at 40 love there and hold to love, your opponent's going to feel a lot worse about the scenario.
Oh, he's just pulled out an absolute perler there, the Italian. Keeps himself interested in this game. It's also the thing as well, you're 40 love up, as you say, looking to close out the game. He's given him a point there, a gift now. Now Cipolla's pulled out a wonderful shot, and he's back to 40-30. And it just shouldn't be there from Tsonga's point of view. The game should be put to bed.
No, he might not necessarily win that point at 40 love, but you can't ever win a point with a shot like that. So you've got to make sure that you play that point as if you break point down. I remember, Guy, listening to Jimmy Connors commentating. One of the players that he was commentating on was 40 love up and lost that point. And the co-commentator said, well, it doesn't matter. That was just a free point at 40 love, wasn't it? And Connors said there are no free points. Every single point assumes the same importance. And you have to play every point like that. And that's what Tsonga didn't do at 40 love there. And he might pay a heavy price for that now.
Connors is a great example, of course. He played every point.
Just as Nadal does now.
Yeah.
Advantage Tsonga.
And that's why those two guys in particular, Connors and Rafa, are two of the greatest competitors ever to play this game. And when the chips are down, they always perform so well because of that mentality, Jason.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Lots of similarities between Connors and Nadal. Tsonga needs to take a leaf out of both of their books.
A little pump of the fist there from Tsonga. Better body language. Holding serve and edging ahead. Cipolla in discussions.
No, I was looking at you. You hit the ball, and then when it was out, huh? No, just after you returned, then you should have stopped, and I understand, but you just returned, and then you looked when the ball was out.
Game Tsonga.
Believe there that it's Cipolla has actually
Tsonga
wanted
leads
to challenge,
16.
but he's played the ball already, and of course, if you played the ball, no chance.
I was even looking at you.
That ball's clearly on the line there, so still wanting to discuss the situation.
But for me, you had the time to make it.
Yeah, well, the umpire was saying that Cipolla hit the ball, and then once he realized his shot was going out, then he decided to question the call, and he felt the time was too long, and that Cipolla should have made the challenge a little sooner rather than later. So that was the debate that was going on between the Italian and the umpire.
Okay, Robbie, on a clay court, though, you're allowed to do that, right? You could get the guy to come down and look at the mark, so why not?
You're exactly right, and the rule with Hawkeye is that it's supposed to be exactly the same as clay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
So it's an interesting point because, of course, the rule does state that it has to be played the same as it would be on a clay court, and you are allowed to hit your shot and then have a look at the mark and then get the umpire to come down and have a look at it. So I think the umpire's made a mistake there.
Of course, it's a tricky one, though, Jason. You know, what happens when a guy hits a really slow ball and it bounces, say, on the baseline, and then you hit the ball back? The umpire will argue, though, that you had plenty of time to challenge the ball. It was a slow shot, whereas, of course, the last shot was a half volley. So it's a better judgment's got to be used by the umpire in that respect.
Absolutely, but I mean, in hitting a half volley, it's very, very difficult for the player. On a clay court, you would hit it, wouldn't you, naturally? Then you would glance down and have a look at the mark. You wouldn't challenge immediately, would you?
They're spot on.
30-15.
Of course, Cipolla playing on clay a lot throughout the course of his career would know that. And I think that's why he was so convinced about his argument. But the umpire, not Mohammed Al-Janati, Mohammed's up in the next match, Ahmed Abdel Azim, wasn't going to have any of it.
Yeah, that's beautifully done. That's more reminiscent of what we saw as he built his break of serve advantage up.
Yeah, another really nice sneak, and that's the right time to do it. When you see your opponent can only hit a slice shot, it has to be defensive. It can only be a dink or a lob, and therefore the time's right to race into the net and take the ball as early as you possibly can. He's had a lot of success there, winning at 11 of 14 points so far. It's outstanding for someone who's been brought up on clay.
But he probably deserves a tie-break. He actually close out the set when he had the opportunity. But he deserved this situation. He's going to get it. He'll have a tie-break to decide this opening set.
Tsonga's a challenge in the call at the right.
We do have a challenge here. It's legitimate. It's been accepted by the umpire.
He's made a couple of errors so far, Tsonga. I think this one was miles out. I mean, it's so far out. I don't understand that at all.
Tsonga has 2 challenges remaining.
Did get the additional challenge, of course, starting the tie-break, but he agree with you, Jason. He's rather tossed away. We saw that serve that was way out to the ad courts, and then again there, just not even close. Quick mini break for Tsonga.
2-0, Tsonga.
Yeah, a couple of poor forehands that, and the serve too was on a Robbie Koenig's there, 145 kilometers an hour. I mean, you can roll that thing in faster.
Number 2. It's keeping count. Robbie has right of reply though here. Waiting for a special back from the man. Outside. Oh, that is quite special too. And that was
a Robbie Koenig backhand.
3-0.
Oh, quick to cover up there, Jason. This was a good one. This was a good one. Got nice and low. Didn't get it 100% clean though. So consider himself a little bit fortunate. But for me, this is a groundhog day again for Jo-Wilfried. Pretty much exactly what we saw in the opening stanza yesterday in his match against the Tunisian.
As far as double faults are concerned, Guy, that's a positive one in my book, and I don't mind it at all. He was looking to serve and volley, he got a good hit on it, missed it just long. If you miss it long or wide, it's okay. It's when you fall in the net and you get a little tight, you don't really get the racket through the ball, that it's a really bad one.
First double that for the Frenchman. Still in charge of this tie-break. Only just though.
4-1.
Response with a terrific delivery. Just 167 Ks that one, but it's unreturnable when you land them like that.
And I think that's why I was talking about it being a good double, because that allowed him on that next point still to keep a loose arm and put the racket head through the ball, albeit with a little bit of slice. Didn't get tight.
Tsonga.
So, Robbie, I just want to bring you in there, having seen Tsonga miss another backhand, because yesterday we were remarking about the fact that he hit with one hand some of the times, and on other occasions, as he did there, with the 2 hands. Which do you prefer and why?
Oh, I prefer the 2-handed backhand because it just has a little more control, especially when you use the left hand, which is the top hand for him. 2 hands always gives you a little bit more stability. But also there, Jason, right after he hit that last backhand, he kind of punched his back on the lower right side. And of course, it is pretty cool down here. So I'm just wondering if it's a little stiff or it's a little tight. He's not able to coil as well as he'd like to.
Yeah, and of course, when you chatted to him yesterday,
considering the challenges, sorry, Jason,
baseline, the ball is
more than one. Tsonga going to the review. Sorry to cut you off. Big moment, this. He's just gone long again. You can understand more, though, why he challenged that time. That was a lot closer. It's a sort of ball that he would look to go to the review for. Back in this tie-break.
That's a lovely little volley, no question about that, and it's a very positive point for Tsonga to have played. And just going back to that point, Robbie spoke to Tsonga after the match yesterday. He said, I didn't play a lot in the off-season, I had to relax. So therefore, that match yesterday, you know, long time on the court in tough conditions, he will certainly have woken up this morning stiff. There's no question about that. So he might just have a little niggle there. And of course, in the wind, you hit all sorts of strange shots, and it does take its toll on your body. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Especially when you've got a big frame like Tsonga to hulk around the court. It's not easy.
Big double there. Time doesn't permit to run through the injury catalogue with Tsonga. We're at the business end of this tiebreak. I wouldn't be finished in time, I think, if I started on that one, but I'm sure our viewers know about the problems he's had. Not so much recently. I mean, that was the thing. He managed to get a consistent run of tournaments and then was winning a lot of matches, if you think of last year. But he is, as you say, the way he's built, so muscular, he's liable to, you know, little aches and pains. Maybe he's picked one up there. There's the play again that you like so much Tsonga doing, Jason.
Yeah, he's very strong overhead. He's got one of the best smashes in the game. So I think the time was right to move forwards. It was a sensible approach shot. He hit it aggressively, but well inside the line, and he's going to make 99 out of 100 of those. And makes a good little adjustment here, because normally you'd want to reach up and hit that at its peak. But look, the arm's bent, just dipping viciously. So he made the adjustment just in the nick of time. It's a good shot.
Take the set point there, but he'll have a chance of his own now, Tsonga, to get this done. Cipolla continuing to play him tough, asking the question of Tsonga on his own serve.
You know, why do that? Just let the rally continue. Don't panic. Just because Cipolla had hit, you know, what, 8, 9, 10 shots in a row, it can't hurt you off the slice backhand. So just keep hitting your strength, your forehand, to your opponent's weakness, their backhand, and wait to see what they do. You're the one in the driving seat with set point. Why would you try and win the point from there, the baseline, with a very risky shot at the best of times, especially in breezy conditions? And we've talked about it before, Guy, and there was a shining example. Extremely poor shot selection on a huge point. And that's what cost Tsonga.
Wouldn't have been happy with that, would he? 2 set points have come and gone.
Left for serve.
As well, he has got him, and now Cipolla threatens to turn this tiebreak around big time. He has a set point of his own.
Again, it's that forehand. Earlier in the match, he was able to whip one down the line. This time, varying it beautifully. Again, though, it's that subtle flick of the wrist, and look how well he was able to hit that ball, even though he was losing his balance there. That is terrific stuff from the Italian.
Tsonga's turn to step up and keep this tiebreak going.
If he wants to hit one shot under pressure, it's going to be the smash. He's so good. And of course, this time, because of the wind, he wasn't able to hit it as flatly as he would have wanted, so he couldn't generate a lot of pace. Just coming around the right-hand side of the ball to generate a little bit of slice. Again, caught it quite low on the racket, so did well to control it. It's another huge point. This time, well played by the Frenchman.
Tsonga's choice of shot is quite bemusing.
And again, he's finding it very, very difficult to get any kind of rhythm at all from the back of the court, because Cipolla is varying the trajectory and the type of shot that he's hitting time and time again. That heavily sliced backhand. It's a wonderful shot, and it's been so effective throughout this opening set.
No, he hasn't made it. That is just long and just wide as well.
It's rubbing salt into the wounds there, buddy. Just out was enough. It's a sensible approach shot here, nice and deep, and that was a risky shot. It had to be inch perfect, and it was.
Left for serve.
To that last point, Jason, what made that drop volley so good was the fact that Jo was playing with the wind. So if he's a little heavy-handed, he's going to lose the point, he's going to lose the set.
That's an excellent point.
9-8.
Finds that delivery again. It's been one of the more impressive aspects of Tsonga's game in this opening set.
And Robbie, of course, was talking about Tsonga playing with the wind. A disadvantage when you're trying to hit drop shots or drop volleys, but when you're serving from that end, if you can use the wind to good effect, it gives you a little bit of additional pace through the air and off the court. And of course, that made life difficult for Cipolla there.
Thank you.
Set point number 3 for the Frenchman. Takes full advantage, emphatic ending to the set. Not good enough from Cipolla, who tightened up there. It's a shame for him. Contributed in a big way to an entertaining set of tennis, just over an hour. But it is Tsonga, the 3rd seed, who's taken it on the tiebreak there. 10 points to 8. He is a set to the good.
And first set, Tsonga, 7 games to 6.
Yeah, good set of tennis. I mean, highly entertaining. No question about that. Fascinating as well, because the conditions so difficult with the wind, and Cipolla embraced that initially. Tsonga didn't and struggled. Fell behind a break of serve despite holding numerous times to love. I really like the way that Cipolla used the slice backhand to vary the height at which Tsonga was having to hit those ground strokes. He really didn't deal with that shot particularly well. And of course, a lot of success at the net for the Italian, winning 12 of 17 points there. High percentage of first serves in, 81%, because he doesn't hit it that hard. But that was the shot, I think, that let him down in the end. He got really tight when it really mattered, when he served for the set, and of course in the tiebreak as well. And because there was nothing on that serve, then that allowed Tsonga to stay in the tiebreak and then of course win it in the end. So that's something that Cipolla will need to improve.
Qatar Paralympic Committee's objectives of enabling individuals with disabilities to participate in sporting activities. So it's to a very
enjoying and watching himself there.
Stop by and make a difference today.
Seen that a few times already this week, Tsonga. So now watching a few of his supporters. They'll be in fine spirits, as will he, having taken that tie-break. Really titanic set of tennis. 10 points to 8 for Tsonga.
Time. Second set.
All eyes really on this man now. Where's the response, having dropped that set where he had many chances?
52.
Only has 2 top 20 wins in his career, remember, Cipolla. For all the good results he's had, the rise up the rankings, he's up against it now. Clearly a hugely important first game here as well. Cipolla starting the second set on his own ball. Here's the reaction to dropping that opening set in the way that he did after the chances that he had. Remember, he served for it at 5-4, had chances as well in the tie-break. Couldn't take any of them.
saw this yesterday with Tsonga, didn't we? Took the opening set on the tiebreak, had chances in the early stages of set number 2, and you know, had he played well for a period of, what, 5 or 10 minutes there, could have put the match to bed. Similar scenario here, right now.
That's incredibly similar. You're looking for a statement from a player like this here. Somehow managed to win that set on the tiebreak. Now, can he pull away, impose himself? I suppose what I'm thinking for here is, yeah, all right, it's most important to win matches, but make a statement. Didn't really do that. He got through the match yesterday. Great. Gets through the opening set here. Great too. Where's the statement now from a player like him looking to go on and make really, really big strides this year?
Yeah, no, you should be able to beat players ranked 70 in the world comfortably. You know, even if there's a tight first set, you should have enough experience to draw upon to be able to take the match by the scruff of the neck. Didn't do it yesterday. Can he do it today?
Definitely imposing himself there, despite Cipolla's best efforts to keep it going.
It was a much better rally. I mean, all of those forehands were very sweetly struck. And then not trying to do too much with the volley there. He knew that even if Cipolla chased that down, the chances of him making this shot were so remote that it didn't really matter.
Break point right at the start of the second set for Tsonga.
A huge point, this.
Yeah, he does break through there. That's what he was looking for. Tsonga with the perfect start here to set number 2. Already a set clear, remember. Now breaks immediately. Right at the start of this second set for 1-love.
Yeah, that was a good game. So obviously, if he's just able to hold serve from here on in, that'll be job done. And he'll be safely through to the quarterfinals. Quite interesting, though, when you're talking about his serve, because he's got various patterns of play that he likes to use. As far as the first serve's concerned, the yellow and the red balls there, red ones, of course, are aces. He loves the slider out wide to the right court, and, of course, the slider up the tee to the left court. But very little variation with that second serve. Those are the grey balls there. Loves the kicker to the right-hander's backhand. And I think when you're talking about playing against the best players in the world, you will want to vary that second serve a little more readily. And of course, if he's able to do that, it'll give him a chance to just keep his opponent guessing a little more. But perhaps today, because it's so breezy, he's keeping it simple.
15-love. For service. 30-15.
All a matter for Tsonga, you feel, of just maintaining concentration. Something he was able to do much better as it coincided with that terrific run of results in the second half of last season. It's been a problem for him in the past. It's been a problem, of course, for his French compatriot, Gaël Monfils, who we'll see later on. Nothing wrong with that.
40-15.
Oh, yeah. It's more like it.
It's a lovely little volley, and again, it's exactly what Robbie Koenig was talking about at the beginning of the match. He got down wonderfully low to that one, and therefore he was able to control the ball perfectly. Look at that, though. His head and the racket head very, very close together. Good technique.
Tsonga.
Yeah, this is pretty good now, getting the job done.
Tsonga leads 2 games to love.
Set and 2-love for Tsonga.
Love 15.
Hey, Robbie, just a quick question. You were remarking on the fact that Cipolla just got a little down on himself with the body language when he wasn't able to serve for that opening set. I seem to sense a similar scenario here. Do you agree?
Yeah, he's just starting to look over to the box a little bit more often. Just see him a little aggravated there as well. Palms to the air. He is frustrated because he knows, Jason, he had a golden opportunity at 5-4 when he threw in the double fault, as well as that easy 4 and that he missed at 30-all. And we both know those linger in your mind. It's so difficult to put them to the back of your head.
15-30.
And of course, I know all too often about what it's like serving for a set when you don't have a big serve. You've got to nail it down first time, because so often the better players make you pay for it, just like what we've seen here.
And I think also as well, you know, when you don't manage to serve out a set, similar scenario as far as I was concerned, it preys on your mind more, because you know that it's happened so often in the past and you get so frustrated by it. It's not like it's the first time it's happened, and so you can understand where he's coming from with that kind of attitude. The serve is a glaring weakness, particularly the second serve, as far as his whole game's concerned.
Yep.
14-15.
A couple of cheap shots here, loose stuff from Tsonga. I really want a bit more even, wanted to power away a bit more. Difficult to pick fault with it, 2-love up, but this is the opportunity, as Robbie's been pointing out, the body language of his opponents. Danny should be feeding off that and really go for this. Instead, he is just given Cipolla a game. Got him on the board. The Italians just about still in touch, still just one breakdown at the early stages of set number 2.
Perhaps a game that got away from Tsonga there. You know, one break's good, but two breaks always a lot better. Especially when you're someone like Tsonga, he's such a good front runner, and you're not playing particularly well, so that's when you've got to battle even harder for a second break of serve. So whilst he's just the one behind, Cipolla will still feel he's in with a half chance here.